This last video of this series, I just want to do one thing. And I've done this before in several different instances for several different series. It's because it is so fun to do. So as a young synthesist, it was always my belief that synthesizers could not do human voices because a human voice is, organic and unique and whatever. And when you hear a synthesizer, especially a synthesizer, an old analog synthesizer, trying to do some sort of instrument, I mean, they can barely pull off a violin or, and the human voice is so much more complex and more interesting. It just seems impossible. Although I do have to point back to the very first synthesizers that were extant. The point of them was to emulate the human voice. The very first attempt at synthesis was an attempt to make the human voice. So, and it succeeded. It's because synthesizers, once they took on the model of starting with a harmonically rich sound and using a filter to cut it down, the synthesizer was sort of shot in the foot towards harmonic applications. And so it becomes really challenging because of the filter choices we made. But the human voice is capable of being reproduced by a synthesizer. And obviously, it helps the more functionality you have. If you have a modular synthesizer, of course, you probably have a number of oscillators and filters, and you can pull off amazing things. Probably far better than the little example I've come up with here. But the human voice is characterized primarily by formants, which are two resonant peaks generated by the human body. The larynx is basically just generating the equivalent of a sawtooth wave, and the rest of your vocal channel from after that is generating this outcome that has two frequency spikes that we call formants. So if you have a synthesizer that allows you to emulate those frequency spikes, you've come a long way to being able to create the timbre of the human voice. Of course, the human voice has so many elements in addition to simply the tone that exists or the way that that tone changes, which is relatively easy to do with a synthesizer. Consonants and plosives and a wide variety of other sounds that are more difficult to generate unless you have a pretty complex synthesizer. But what I'm just trying to say is that you can kind of make vocal sounds with a synthesizer like the CS-15 because it has two bandpass filters that you can jack up in resonance. And in doing that, and then setting them to different filter cutoff points with different EG settings, you have the ability of creating vocal sounds that sound like vaguely like human vocal sounds. For example, let's see how this sounds. The different, and setting the different peaks, the formants, to the frequencies that are associated with human vowels allows you to make really realistic ones. I did not do that here, but if you look up, you can see like where those peaks are frequency-wise in regard to the different vowels, and you can reproduce perfect vowels just by guessing, where these numbers for harmonic frequencies exist. Unfortunately, we do have limitations in envelopes. We do need an envelope for the output and an envelope for the formants. So if we could apply if we had one more envelope, we could do more interesting sounds, human-like sounds. But still, we can get some pretty interesting things here. Bad opera. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to at least show you a sort of slap together evidence that you can make vocal sounds with a synthesizer like this one, or specifically this one. And I've made even more realistic ones in the past. It just takes some fiddling, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Anytime you have the ability to have two resonant bandpass filters, you have the ability to make some pretty fun vocal timbres. And those are just some of the examples of how versatile and great sounding the Yamaha CS-15 is. I can't say enough good things about it. Every time I play it, I'm like, oh, I've got to make more videos about this. It's too good. It's really under-celebrated. There are so many synths that go for 3 or 4 times as much as this synthesizer that are pathetic in comparison. Unfortunately, the CS-15 never gained an associative value. There was no band that had the good sense to make this the centerpiece of their sound, or no techno band that recognized that this could be a genre-defining instrument. But instead, some other inferior synthesizers were embraced. Unfortunate. But yeah, you can listen to me, and you can go pick up the CS-15 for relatively little comparatively now. And you will have this amazing tool in your hands.